Okay, we're live. Welcome to our Artist Spotlight with Gail Ose and Cindy Kolling. And Gail, did I pronounce your last name right?
Yes, you did.
Just occurred to me, I should have asked. I'm Kristin Eggerling. I'm the promotion specialist with the Arts Council. And I have Trey Everett, like I said, and Gail and Cindy, and they can introduce themselves.
Yeah, I'm Trey. I work with galleries, our gallery in Thief River Falls at Northland Community and Technical College. And so it's been a pleasure to work with Gail and Cindy, who I've worked with both of you quite a bit over the last few years. And so it's fun having you two together. And this exhibit is a 2-month exhibit, and it actually ends next week. Next Tuesday, the 30th, will be the last day, and then Wednesday we'll be taking the exhibit down. So if you're watching this and you haven't been to the exhibit, now's time to go. And so that's Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. It should be open. Gail, I got your message, and apparently there's been a few times the gallery was locked, which is not supposed to be. And so I'm working with Northland to remedy that. But if for some reason the gallery is locked, which it should not be, you can go to the front desk and they'll open it up for you. But anyway, so if the exhibit ends on Tuesday, the 30th. The title of this exhibit is Awareness Within and Without. And I love that title because Cindy's, your artwork is what you can see with your physical eyes and observe and magnify and look at and create images. Gail, your artwork is seeing within and looking deep within yourself. So I love that title, Awareness Within and Without. And you two we'll talk more about each of your artwork in just a little bit. But why don't I turn it over to you? Gail, why don't you start us out? Just introduce yourself, where you're from, and a little bit about your art in the gallery.
Okay. Well, I'm Gail. I'm owner and founder of Serendipity Art Hub in Thief River Falls, Minnesota. I opened in, I think it's about 3 years ago now, Trey, if I'm correct. Yeah. And I opened first with just painting and gradually has blossomed into becoming more than just painting and teaching painting and combining that with a coaching practice into a healing arts and just also interlaced with play and fun. I have now ceramics and glass fusing that we do, and I do parties and workshops and any kind of group event. So there's quite a few things that I do here, and
yeah. Okay, Cindy, how about you?
Well, so my name is Cindy Kolling. I'm from Gully, Minnesota. I have an art business, but it's a lot different than Gail's. Mine is a wholesale product designs. I produce and distribute to, I'm going to call them culturals and outdoor type venues for resale. So like visitor centers and museum stores, and then bait shops and resort stores also. So anything that kind of reflects, as you said, the outdoor types of mostly nature, but I do a lot of historical stuff also. So I was going to ask, and then I have just, over the last few years, kind of gotten into doing some of these visual, more fine art type exhibits. So that's been kind of a new challenge. Well, I've done a few over the past, decades. However, I just didn't have the time to do that. And then just decided it was time to try something a little bit different to kind of grow my style a little bit more. So I am curious that you did say about the title of this exhibit that's going on right now, which I was kind of intrigued when I saw that. I thought, well, no, that's a good title, but I wasn't sure why I thought it was a good title. I mean, I know that Gail's is more introspective types of stuff, and I think the general essence is that what I do is just outdoor stuff, what you see. But I also like to know that whatever I do kind of gets people interactive a little bit with the outdoors maybe, or the subject, or whatever the subject might be, and that would help them also, and me, and that we'd all get a little more aware, which I guess drags it to the inside. But overall, yep, I'm outside. I'm outside right now. You see a bee flying by. I've had a few visitors, so we're trying to see what kind of bees they are. They're bumblebees of some sort, but
Sorry,
yeah,
that
that's not here.
that was my window's open, and that was
Oh, okay.
a loud car that drove by.
Can you talk about your artistic process, more details about your art in the exhibit? Either of you, both of you.
Go for it, Gail.
Okay. Sure. Recently, and part of the blossoming of what I do, what started me way back when was I heard this really happy, upbeat woman saying, "Oh my gosh, you can paint." She was doing a meditation painting course. Um, and I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. And as soon as she mentioned combining spirituality and art, I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, but whatever it is, I'm there. If I can do my two favorite loves and you can combine them in one, you're on, you know? And so that's kind of what started the whole thing. I really only started intending to get my life back doing things that, you know, I have several degrees. I have a master's degree, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm getting older, and I'm certainly not going to go back into the career field. So what am I going to do with the rest of my life besides just, you know, staying home didn't sort of light any sparks in me. And so, and I tried several things, and I thought, well, you know, I really don't know the answer to that, but I do know that she says I can paint people. I know I used to draw them and paint them. And I know I love painting and I love spirituality, so I'm doing it. And from that, it went into a coaching program, and then it moved into other programs. And then along came an even bigger deep dive into the spiritual, which was an even more focused internal diving. And I'm like, you know, I just, it's kind of like the two things that light me up, I just can't get enough of. And so I took a program that lasted a year, and I'm now in their master's program after that one to go even deeper yet. That's going to be bringing in elements of shamanic work and other type of energy focus. But at that level, it was about creating portals, or which we refer to as, it's just a passageway, an opening, a softening to where you make an intentional connection with, some people say it's God, some people say it's spirit, the universe. It's just that intentional energetic connection with the unseen, however you relate to the unseen, and learning what that takes and how to build your muscles in doing that. So it's not, for me and most of the people that go through the first portal painting, so to speak, they're like, oh my gosh, I want to do that again, because it is a process like any other self-improvement or educational process. It's something that keeps building. as much as you want it built. It's not like, oh, I painted this picture, I'm done, I'm good. It's more about the internal work that you're doing. And so, yeah, that's what I really like about it. And then learning to just surrender to the magic and something else outside of yourself and being okay with that. The portal painting does, the big ones that I do, like you'll see a couple behind me. That one right there is about 3 layers. It starts in a very ethereal, spiritual realm, and then it moves into a more solid form, which the other one over there is in a more solid form with heavier body. So you're bringing in more structure and more firmness and more of the feel of the scene. And so, yeah. And then it goes from here into whatever, I mean, it goes to whatever you want it. You can stop whenever you want, but it has a ways to go. That's about 3/4 of the way done right there. I don't know if I answered that question.
Of course, yeah, you did.
It's really, I'm not the best at explaining it, but it's very intuitively led. It's very ceremonial. We do a lot of meditating. I do drumming, and constant connecting and reconnecting in between the layers. So it's not like, okay, we start and then you're off in some other, it's very intentionally led. Okay, this is what we're doing now. And then you bring them back to that space. Okay, come back to this space, make that connection again. And now we're going to move on. So it's very closely held. And the doors are closed. I don't have my store open because it's a very sacred space, you know, as that inner realm inside of all of us should be.
Yeah. Cindy, do you want to talk about your process?
No, I hate that question. You know that. But yes, I will. So mine is not, mine is a lot more basic and straightforward, I would say, in a lot of ways, but it does kind of flop around and twist around and turn. I like to work in some kind of series when I do anything, even when I'm working in my products. I do a series of something related, and then that way it kind of goes as it goes along as I'm doing things. But the first thing, let's just say I'm staying with the topic of nature, which is what the exhibit is about now. There are 2 actual series that are kind of being presented at that exhibit right now. One is I have an ongoing series called That's Not Nothing, It's Not Nothing, Those Aren't Weeds. And that has to do with just trying to take a closer look and see what's right in front of us every day. As we're driving down the road, we look and there's nothing, right? There's just nothing. And then you start looking a little closer and then you go, there's something weird there. What is that? And then the next day you look and you go, look at that. It's starting to get a little color on it. What is that? And then by the 3rd or 4th day, you start looking it up and you're starting to realize, well, that's interesting. That's a native plant that's growing here. And I didn't know that. It looks like a weed. Most people might think that's a weed. And this is sort of the ongoing thing that has been happening. And I think I started the series in, I'm going to say it was 2018. I believe that the first 12 pieces were, and that this was one of those. It was a milkweed. So just to give you, where did I put the other? Oh, it's back here. Just to give you an idea of how the series sort of, let's see, is that kind of work? Can you see them both there?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It gives you a little bit of sense that there's a different style depiction of the same plant. And there would actually be 12 then in that whole series set. I'm going to call it a set because there'd be 12 plants of the milkweed done in different ways. First thing that I would do is after I've kind of started looking at a plant, I'm learning about it, asking a lot, reading about it. I do actually do quite a lot of homework on it. Just raise your hand if you want me to wrap it up here if I talk too long. The first thing then that I would do is I'd go out, and this isn't a milkweed, but I take a lot of reference photographs. This is a yellow lady slipper. If this gives you, and a lot of my photographs are not quite that obvious what they are. I may have lots of them that are just little parts of a plant, like maybe I want to see, okay, the leaves are alternating on this plant. I need that for reference. If it's not a rare plant, and if there's no reason to feel that I'm endangering anything or anything, I may pluck one for a reference or two. Um, I'm kind of careful about that, where I take it or whatever. But as you can see, I do like my little wildflower bouquets. But then I would have that, and maybe it sits in my working area till wintertime. So sometimes they'll kind of dry up, but I can still see the structure of the plant. And in the meantime, I've got a lot of various stages of the plant's little flower, little pictures of it, and then also, uh, you know, sometimes it'll just be a close up, or maybe I just find part of it or something, or different stages and that sort of thing. So I probably, I mean, I had lots and lots of milkweeds, and then I'd start doing homework on it, and you find that where it is in relation to other things. And with the milkweed, of course, the most commonly known connection is that that's the only plant that a monarch butterfly caterpillar can eat. So there's lots of monarchs yet in the world, but they are minimizing, and there's lots of milkweeds. But again, because of some of the habits that people have and such, even those are kind of minimizing. And the attitude toward a milkweed now has become much more, oh yeah, maybe it has some merit, where it used to be considered really just a really detrimental weed. It's still on the noxious weed list of some states, but at the same time, those same states might have a display saying plant milkweeds in your garden because they're good for the monarch. So there's a little catching up that's got to happen all the way around. And I think awareness is creating. I'm not saying it's anything to do with me. I'm just like doing my little itty bitty little space of it all. But then the next thing that I did after I did those 12, and that was really pretty well received and interesting, and I really liked it, and it really helped me kind of launch into a whole nother deal of producing things that when I do my regular work, and I really like my regular work, I love my regular work. But when I do that, my designs have to meet a certain criteria as far as being able to be produced in big quantities, and they have to meet resale guidelines for as far as cost, production cost, or just how they're going to be displayed and portrayed. And when I did this series, that was like, oh yeah, it doesn't really matter. If nobody likes it, it's okay, because I like it and I'm having a good time and I'm really growing from this. So that was a big plus for me. So then I decided to go on to the next one. Now those are, what they are is, they're a pen and ink drawing that was done from the photographs, that was done from the, the research stuff. I mean, trying to incorporate those things. And then I did a silk screen, hand printed silk screens from them. But they are, when I do the first screen, then I would do that, and then I do something to change it. Now it might be that I change the screen itself. I might be that I scrape off some of the ink and put a different kind of ink on, or mix the ink differently. It might be that I am overlapping multiple screens or multiple settings on the same screen, and none of the prints get, it's not like regular silk screen kind of thing where you might do say 100 of them or something, and then you've got exact reproductions and registrations. So these aren't, I can't really make another one of these from the silk screen. I could, digitally reproduce it, but you do lose a lot that way. You lose the texture of it, you lose a lot of the detail that way. So far I haven't done that, and I'm at this point not really sure that I will, but anyway, so they're one of a kind. And then there's 12 of those. I maybe I did like, say, I don't know, 30 or so when I first did the printing, and probably had about 50 that were just total bombs, the ink spills all over them. They just went in the garbage. But I selected out 12 then for the series, and then those were named, numbered, and signed. So then the next one that I did was the Big Blue Stem, which is a kind of an iconic prairie grass. And prior to that, I knew I wanted to do local grasses. I didn't know. I'm ready to stop, so I'm watching you. If you want me to slow up, just interrupt me. The prairie grasses are kind of an iconic. That's kind of an iconic tall grass prairie grass. And so I did that one for the second one. But prior to that, the milkweed does have a more diverse habitat. So I was just looking at native plants. Then the third one that I did was the prairie smoke. And you can see this one. I guess you kind of see that one. I don't know if any of you recognize that plant. But again, it was done in many different ways. And that one was where people that were looking at it seemed to latch onto the idea that I was doing prairie grasses. Well, I hadn't really thought of that I was doing that. I thought of that I was doing native plants. But then I decided, okay, yep, that's a good focus. I'm just going to do 12 sets of 12 each native prairie plants. So then the fourth one was the white sage, which is one of the ones that's on display in Big River. If you can, sneak in there, take a look. And then the fifth one is the blazing star. And the blazing star is, I don't have any of those prints, of course, because they're hanging there, but you may have seen, this is a winter one where the seed heads are kind of emptied and dead, but it's a kind of a pink, purplish pink usually. It can have some variants, but are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, I lost you here. There you go. Okay. The drawbacks to sitting outside, you kind of have everything on top of it. So anyway, so that's the ones I did now. Now I have just done the preliminary ones of the sixth one. So I will continue through on 12, and then I'm aiming kind of toward a more wetland type of terrain. Somewhere before I get to 12, I'll kind of do a coinciding thing and start that. So that's what that shows about. Then the other exhibit that's part of them is in Thief River is called Illustrated Prairie Illustrated Story, Life and Times of the Tallgrass Prairie. And that's a more of a mixed medium type. This grass one back here is part of that series that there wasn't a spot for. Also that winter one I just showed you is another part of that. So that's just sort of an evolution of mixed media to show some of the different facets of the tallgrass prairie. So those are the ones that are showing now. Sorry to take so long.
That's great. That's great. What I think is interesting in that I think a lot of people would want to be curious about this. So both of you have developed careers, you might say, with your art. Cindy, you've been doing these mini murals for quite some time. And then Gail, you have your own studio and this art hub, and you are right. And you both have been able to take your art and go further with it into this kind of career world. And I think a lot of people would be really curious about how you developed that. So could you just say, maybe briefly, how that sort of took place? Maybe any advice you might have for artists that are wanting to do something similar. Gail, why don't you start us out?
Okay. That's curious you would ask me to do that. I have had people ask me, do I need to go to art school? Well, I guess that's kind of like a personal choice. If you're young enough, that's great. I was originally, when I graduated high school, I was accepted to Wisconsin Art Institute in Stout. And that's where I was going to go because it's always been my passion. It's been with me since I can remember, since I was 8. And so that tells me it's probably something that I was very close to and fed me in a very, in a way that made me want to continue doing it throughout my whole life. But my life took me on this other trajectory, you know, because as I mentioned before, I had like the spiritual and painting, you know. Well, I don't know if you want to call having a family and community bond is spiritual, but it's a viable part of what I do, and it's a very critical part of some of the other programs that I do is bringing in the essence of community. And so, you know, without even realizing it, you're young and you think, oh my gosh, you can do anything, and you've got your whole life before you, and you don't realize the choices that you're making and how it's going to affect your life. And I never even gave it a thought about not going to art school because to me, I just wanted to have a family and, you know, and go off in that manner. And it never ever left me. I swear, I think I taped just about every one of Bob Ross's back when we could do VHS tape. I swear I painted and did along every one of this. Like, I mean, and every other artist that would come on TV, I VHS them all. I have a library of VHS tapes, you know, because I could. It was just always such a connected part of me, and I launched off into mechanical engineering and design work, thinking, oh, that's a close second, you know. And elements of my creativity always crept through into my work. People, you could see it, you know. I'd be like, yeah, I know I'm doing this as a profession, but I just always threw in a little bit more, you know. And some of the engineers just kind of liked my work because balance and symmetry and just how the feel of I got this is just a mechanical print, but you know, somebody needs to like connect with it because they're going to be working with it, making something from it. And so in a sense that never ever left me. And so as soon as that spark was lit, it was like a wildfire had been unleashed in my life. And the last few years has been my husband has been really sweet to support me in this because I think I've taken just about every program. I mean, one year I was in about 5 programs. I thought I was back in college again, you know. It's like I just can't get enough of it. And so what I would say to people that want a career in art is I would just say just go for it. I mean, there's so many things that you can do, and whatever it is you really want to do in life, as long as it's something you're passionate about, that's really the most critical connection you need to make, and the rest is just falls into place.
Okay.
And if you don't, you'll come full circle, so not to worry. You'll eventually come full circle.
Okay, great, thank you. Cindy, what about you?
Well, yeah, what was the question again?
Yeah, how have you developed your art career? Can you give it any advice? What advice would you give to budding artists that want to do the same that you and Gail are doing?
Okay. Well, I guess probably the most basic thing that I would advise as far as anything that I've learned, and I think I've felt this way all along, is that it's not like it's not like I mean, artists can be business people, just like a lawyer can be a business person or a lawn mowing person could be a business person. It's a business. And if your choice is to do art, then do art, do it in a business like fashion. Make sure you understand things like business plans and stuff like that. but just do the art, and always stay focused on what your art is. That makes it the harder part, of course, for people in art, I think. But I think that there's a tendency for people to think that they can't make a living at art, and that it's not a viable business, and that it's something that, when you tell somebody you're an artist, that they feel kind of sorry for you, and they won't, and that's not the way it should be, because art, well, I don't know, can you see this thing here? Art is not separate from life.
Nice.
I'm really a big proponent of that. I think that that's the case, whether or not it's your career or whether or not it's your livelihood. You need to have that in your life. Everybody does. And if your choice is to have that as your job and your career, then that's the way you should go. And people will tell you not to. People will discourage you, and people will shake their head in sympathy when they're around you. But if you've got a focus, you've got a plan, you've got a direction, it'll work. It may take a little while, but it will work.
Okay.
I think I'd like to add to that briefly. Showing up for yourself and treating it as a business and not a hobby is critical. And I guess I failed to bring that up. The reason that I am developing the pace that I am is that I show up every day, even when I maybe just don't kind of want to. And it's just, you have to treat it like your job. You just, and give it the same kind of respect you would. Being organized, and there's little things that you can do, like, you can do journaling. There's different aspects. People might look at journaling as, oh, that's just child's play, but that's like in these paintings and this stuff that I teach, those underlayers might seem like fun and play, but that's where you get to practice, because those things are going to be covered up. So there's no fear of, oh, I'm going to mess it up. No, you're literally, that's an open playing field to hone the skill. You want to work on shading or shaping, or just doing something like, when you're in art school and they teach you to look at something but not what you're drawing, that's a great place to practice and hone these other art skills while you're doing this, until you get to the more final layers that you want to be seen. And so just showing up is the biggest thing, and doing it regularly, and making it a part of your schedule. If you have to schedule yourself in, do it.
Right.
And sooner or later, you might go. And if you're somebody whose family doesn't understand, well, why is mom or dad wanting to be like doing this thing all the time? Eventually, they will understand how important it is to you, because they will see how it affects you. You just need to be patient and loving, and let them catch up to speed with you, and just being, doing what's important to you.
Okay.
So I'll just throw out too that I think that is an ongoing issue, that not everybody does quite get it, what you do. I mean, I know people don't really, and I'm not bothered by that. That's okay. I'm fine with that. But I think that seeking people that who have some common interests, like being able to exhibit at an art gallery and have people come in where you can chit chat at the receptions, or belonging to groups that are in relation to business and relation to art, it does help you keep that balance. Because regardless, if you're in an art business, no matter what the aspect of it, chances are you do spend a fair amount of time alone. I like my alone time. I like working alone, but it's a good thing to get some reinforcement, just that that there's common thinkers out there.
Okay.
Since we're kind of on the business thing, kind of not, but do either of you do commissions? And also, where do you sell your work, or how do you go about that?
So I don't do commissions in the normal sense. I do offer what I call site and subject specific options to the products that I do. So basically, so for example, I would have a product like this, or one of my cards or journals or that sort of thing. But if somebody wants it, maybe that I have some kind of a specific animal, or the site or of their place or something like that. I do have I call it a program, but basically that they can order that. I retain all the reproduction rights for it and that sort of thing, and they order a finished product with their place on it. And I do allow for an approval for accuracy, but they're basically going to order it on the faith of the artist and previous experience with it. But I don't do like if somebody said, will you draw my house? I don't really do that kind of thing, so it's more to do with my business.
And you have a website, and that's how.
I do have a website. Yep. It's my last name, Kolling, and the company's KollingCards.com. So it's pretty easy to find. If you Google me, I think it'll come up.
So, Cindy, just a quick question. Years ago, when I had my brick and mortar, I remembered your name. From back then, and I saw your cards, and at that time, when I had my brick and mortar, I was desirous to have a card that was like, because I live in Thief River Falls, or maybe my store on it or something, that I would have you do up. And then, so if somebody is interested in something like that, I'm just asking. Because I didn't know how to get a hold of you back then, and I'm like, well, that didn't get very far.
Yep, that was kind of pre-website, pre any kind of really structural responses to those kinds of things too. I did dip into a little bit of kind of sort of custom-y types of things where I really did use specific, where it wasn't my, it was my design, but it was kind of like a modification or something. I decided real soon that wasn't going to work. I have ruled out, so like somebody's store, I don't do that. I would do, say, if somebody said, we'd like to have something representing Thief River Falls, or, I do a lot of, I don't know if I got anything here. I don't see. So I do a lot of regions. I do a lot of parks and that sort of thing, a lot of museums and stuff, where I'll do like historic buildings. So that's kind of the way I've separated out the building. If it is on the National Register of Historic Places, then it can go in the consideration for doing that. If it's just a store, I don't mean just a store. They're all very important. I don't mean that. But I mean, if it's a store that is, and so that it's going to become more of a commercial or a promotional thing, then I don't do it. It's one of the things that I don't put websites on the backs of them. I don't put, I do locator names underneath, titles underneath. So this one, I don't know if you can see it, this has got a locator underneath it. The regular title is Take a Hike, but their locator is under it. But I wouldn't have put their gift store name under there. So it's more the place where the people that are buying it are going to interact with it from. And sometimes I get a little, well, why not kind of stuff, but it's work to do that. And the biggest thing that I've tried to do is to make sure that this stays as an educational interactive art item, not a promotional giveaway kind of thing. Although they do get used that way, as sometimes. I mean, the Fertile Libraries, or the library system, just ordered a bunch to do with their space program. They ordered a bunch of the night sky stuff, and they gave them away. That has happened, and in that case, it's an educational art aspect. I didn't do any name dropping or anything like that on it, but mostly these are a resale item, and they're really, when they first came out, they were intended to replace the little plastic snakes that some places didn't want to carry anymore. Nothing wrong with carrying a little plastic snake, except that sometimes they weren't the right color for their place, and they were the wrong kind of, and so they wanted something interpretive and educational. And so that's where I have kind of gotten a little, and so I have a specific thing written up, a deal that they can ask for, and they can read through it and figure out their options. And I'm really pretty easy to work with once they kind of realize the basic rules. I'll bend over backwards for them. And it has gotten to be a pretty good way to let them get something really specific and unique into their place, but not turn it into a really promotional advertisement product. So I don't know if that helped answer that, but yes, I do remember. Probably was about I kind of remember, and it took me a bit to get through that, and then the other thing that I don't do is I don't guarantee exclusives. So if somebody asks me for a design, and it's probably something that nobody else is ever going to want, but I still keep it. It may not even make it to the website, but it is an option if I want to sell it to somebody else. I don't do that as a rule unless that person would just go defunct and quit ordering it, and then I would release it out or modify it and release it out.
Well, I just asked because I remembered seeing your Paul Bunyan card, and I'm like, oh,
Yep.
Thief River Falls needs to have a Paul Bunyan card for Thief River. I mean, come on. What
Yep.
kind of town doesn't have a card?
Oh, right. Well, and that was one of the ones that that I did, where I utilized part of their. They had I forget how old Paul Bunyan was, but it was part of an anniversary kind of thing. And at that same time, then I did a original design. I don't know if I got that here. I think I do. Where it was just my interpretation of Paul Bunyan, and it doesn't look anything like the Paul Bunyan that is there, but then the other stores and the other places that have, because everybody thinks they own Paul Bunyan, right? Because they think they're the center of Paul Bunyan. So this is my own interpretation of Paul Bunyan. But it has its drawbacks, because there are some things that are just so iconic, and yet I do sell a lot of these too throughout the. Now I have done since then some versions of some of the specific Paul Bunyans. So it's kind of like weighing it out and saying, okay, yep, I see this is the case here. They need this particular thing here. And I see that they're not looking at it as a promotional advertising gimmicky giveaway. They're looking at it as just a way to enhance and extend the visitor's place experience at their place. So I kind of weigh it out, and there's a call for it. I mean, I have a pretty good waiting list. I try to make sure whenever somebody has a deadline or a time frame, that I can meet that. Other people just want it, and they're not, whether it's this year or next year, it's okay. They just want to get it on their list. So it's always kind of a jockeying thing. My wall is full of sticky notes that I'm just rearranging the order of as new things come in or more critical priorities come in. And I'm guessing too. I'm always guessing. I'm always reading between the lines of, like, are they going to order this one, or are they going to want to go with this one first? Oh, and half the time I'm wrong. So I just do the best I can to keep up. But I'm not. I don't mean to sound like I don't do stuff. I do a lot of local stuff. I've got a Red River ox cart design. I've got, a lot of. I've got the big muskie and nevis. So I do have. I don't necessarily only go to large entities to do it. I try to balance that back and forth, because I think it's important that as long as it looks like they're going to be able to make it work, then I'm there.
Gail, how about you? Do you do commissions, and how do you sell to the public?
Okay, I'm still a fledgling artist, so to speak, so I'm still honing my skills at selling to the public. That is, next focus for this year coming up is how do I get people to know me and want my stuff? Because I know I get a lot of feedback from people that they're like, oh my gosh, I want that. And so my next task is to be more visible. To answer your question about commissions, yes, I do. I'm kind of like Cindy at this point. I mean, we're both we're creatives, and the bane of a creative person is that there's so much creativity floating up out there that you really have to start to be selective about how much time you have to focus. And otherwise, because it's not possible. We're only human beings. We can only do so much. And so, yeah, and for me especially, because if it has to do with creativity, I would have been a kid in a candy store to be in art school. I'm not kidding you. I'd have been like, whatever it is, I'll do it. But for my commissions, the one thing that I do promote is on my website, and that is the portal paintings. The portal paintings can be this large that you see here. I do offer 3 different sizes. There's like a 16 by 20 and a 30, I don't know, forgive me, 32 by 48-ish kind of a size. And then there's this size. And if somebody wanted something more specific, I'm like Cindy, I'm easy. I'm not going to say no. That's not on my list of choices. So, but when it comes to the portal paintings, they can be used for so many things. They are especially useful if somebody is passing away or has died. It just allows you to be able, that touch point with somebody that was very special to you. For somebody who knows that they're either maybe in hospice or they're getting older and they're getting nervous about, oh my God, I'm getting older, and there's a little bit of fear and uncertainty there. It creates a connection for them and a source of comfort of them to recall whatever goes in the portal painting is built around a conversation with them as to what their needs are, what was important to them, what their loves are, or what the person who was in their life, what those loves were. And they're also fabulous for people who are having a baby. They've got their nursery and they're all excited. It's their first child and they want to have, welcome this new being into the world. And it creates that energetic bond between, we know you're coming, welcome to your space. It might be a couple that just saved up for so long and they just bought their first new house, and they want it to be that special piece and a combination of what's significant to them. And then that becomes their meeting ground for their house. So this guy's pretty much the limit on the portal paintings. And it's, I do them. That is on my website. And that is serendipityarthub.com. I was just up quite late last night updating my website and trying to perfect some things. I have yet to get my gallery updated. I did a photo shoot with one of our local photographers, and she just sent me all the proofs. So that'll soon be going up on my website also. Great.
Okay, and so the Serendipity Art Hub, that's in Thief River Falls. What's the street address for that?
708 Davis Avenue North.
Okay, and then Cindy, you're in Gully. If somebody wanted to visit, do you have if somebody wanted to physically go to your studio, is that even possible?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, they can get a hold of me. I'm not really a retail outlet or anything like that. I mean, sometimes people do have a want to see that, and that's an option. It's it's a workspace, you know, it's
Right.
but sure, give me a call. I am in the phone book if you don't have access to the website.
Okay. What's that? Did you say phone book? What is that?
That's a big thick thing that you put under your monitor when it's not high enough.
You're almost out of time. What is there anything you want to share that you didn't get a chance to share? Anything about yourself, your art, your businesses that you just would like to say?
I do. I have a little plug to make for myself. I do the portal painting experience. I do a 3-day portal painting experience with a bonus integration. My plan is to do them quarterly. I have somebody who is returning for the 3rd time to do it. So, like I said, it's not something where you come and do it and it's like, okay, I'm good, I'm done. Usually you either love it or you don't, and you want to come back. And I don't force the issue with somebody who's repeat that they got to like paint this big, because there's only so much wall space we have. But I am doing another one this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and you can find that on either my Facebook as a link. It's on my Teachable site. I typically record these, so if you can't attend everything or you aren't in Thief River, you can attend virtually. So there's a different price point depending if you're attending distance or coming into my space. So I do have, I need to learn to like put myself out there. Nobody's going to know they need to show up, but so far I have 4 people showing up, and hopefully I'll be rounding up at least a couple more.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, and I do have that Teachable. I don't know. I have my website, and it links directly to my Teachable platform, which I am building. So I'll have other art courses and stuff that will gradually start to be put on my Teachable site.
Okay. Okay. Great. And tell us your website one more time.
SerendipityArtHub.com.
Okay. Cindy, what about you? Anything last little bit you want to say you didn't get a chance to share?
I'm sure as soon as we get off, I will say, I am accessible through the website. It's callingarts.com. There's a place on there you can just click to contact, and that's just drop a note in there if you want. And it doesn't have to be an order. It doesn't have to be anything other than a comment. If you want to say, hey, how come you don't do this? I do really get almost all my ideas and influences as far as what my stuff that I do, because people ask for it. So, and then, it may not happen right away, but it's funny. I've got a lot of lists of things. I don't throw those away. The other thing is on my website, there is what I call it a coloring art blog. And if you're of one who is interested in just learning some basic techniques of shading and light and that kind of thing, it is designed. This product was really designed for like 8 to 14-year-olds, but there's a lot of adults that do that also, and some of them don't really know where to start, or they get into it because they're just looking for something relaxing and then realize they want to know a little more. I'm not really an art teacher or anything like that, but if somebody does something, they can send in a picture to me, and then I will put it on there, a picture of their coloring product, of my product that they've colored. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me somebody else's. Then I'll put it on there, and people like to see how other people have colored, because these are not colored by number. These are colored however you want to color it. So you can just go on there, go under the About tab, and you'll find it. You can sign up for it if you want, but you don't have to. You can just go in there and look anytime you just want to take a look. And there's quite a lot of people that seem to enjoy that. And some participate by sending in pictures, and some just look.
Okay, great.
I do need to say a couple more things. I say these things so often I kind of like forget about them, or I forget that I haven't mentioned them. I do walk-ins at Serendipity Art Hub, so you don't have to wait for a scheduled class. we're not in the cities, we're not in a heavily trafficked area. So oftentimes in your walk-ins, you'll get more guided instruction from me than you typically would in a normal walk-in setting. But I do walk-ins for painting, pottery, hand building, clay, and glass making. And I've got lots of samples here for that. I do have a kids club planned to come in September. And then I have another program that I'm launching with a couple other of my colleagues called Be the Unstoppable Dream for Men and Women in Recovery. And we all know recovery can be from anything. My form of recovery was just recovering my life, the one that I so freely gave away. And now I'm recovering myself from that and claiming that. And so, that program is a 6-month program, and it'll be launching September 1st. And that will be combining, sacred symbols, and art is a part of it. It's not just a talk or a therapy group or anything like that. That's on my Teachable platform. You can go there and select it and look at and get previews of certain things there, so you can get a taste or a feel for it. But that week meets 3 times a month, and then the whole program is housed on Teachable, and you can walk through it on your own. It's based off of a book called Be the Unstoppable Dream by Whitney Freya. And so anyway, the 3 of us have put together that course with the blessing of the author of the book, of course. So, and that's a 6-month program, and we're already looking forward to that deals with the 6 spheres of wellness, and then we look at the spheres of wellness, and then we also look at the shadow side of that. So there's a whole lot that comes into play with that. The 3 of us have quite a balance or variety of skills that is really nice. And then the other reason we combine the 3 of us is to guarantee that you always have access to somebody in the group. And there's a Facebook page, and there's a place for commenting and leaving your progress and getting feedback. So we're pretty proud of that program and kind of excited to get it going. We're already looking at what's after the 6 months for people. So that's great.
Okay.
I would just like to remind people that if you're trying to reach Gail and Cindy and you forget those websites, you can always reach out to us and at the Arts Council. And both of you are in our upcoming artist booklet. So hopefully that will be coming out soon, and people can find you that way as well.
Yeah. And then again, the galleries at Northland Community and Technical College in Thief River Falls. And you can enter door B, as in boy. There's free parking there, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And the last day of the exhibit is Tuesday, the 30th. So I hope you can, if you haven't been there, I hope you can make it.
Good. Well, thank you. We're going to end the live stream. I would say Gail and Cindy, hang on a minute. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys. It was great.
Thank you.
This was fun.